Welcome to episode 33. I'm your co-host Isaiah Bollinger with the Hard Truth About B2B eCommerce. And Tim, take it away on this lovely holiday.
Hello, everybody. We are recording on President's Day in the U.S. right after Valentine's Day. So belated happy Valentine's Day to all of our listeners. So I'm Timothy Peterson. I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Punch Out To Go. They are a global B2B, if I can only say it, integration company, specializing in connecting commerce business platforms with e-procurement and ERP applications. And Punch Out To Go's iPaaS technology seamlessly links business applications to automate the flow of purchasing data. With their solution, you can immediately reduce integration complexities for Punch Out catalogs and other B2B sales order automation documents in order to accelerate your business results. So thank you to our sponsor, and back to you, Isaiah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to announce our guest, who is the CEO of Pepperi. I think it's exciting to have someone who's actually the CEO of one of the, e-commerce platforms that specializes in B2B. We've had a few of the e-commerce platforms on, but I'm not sure we've had the CEO of any of them on yet.
I don't think so. No.
Unless you count Connexium, but they're not so much an e-commerce platform, and Punch Out To Go as well, but they're more back office platforms. But yeah, so tell us about your background and how you got it. I assume you didn't start in B2B e-commerce, but you can maybe tell us about that and how you got into Pepperi, and maybe start more at the beginning, I guess.
Personally, my background, I'm in executive positions in iTech in Israel for many years. Last position was a vice president in a company called Amdocs, which is in billing, one of the largest companies in Israel, and the largest billing company in the world for telco. Prior to that, I was an executive in several other companies, but I think it's less relevant.
Sure.
By the way, we've talked about Massachusetts. So I actually, in one of those positions, I was the president of Enigma in Massachusetts. I lived there for like 2.5 years.
Yes, I know.
You know our area then, yeah. Yeah, it's a good area, except the winter. February is the worst month in my opinion. It's cold and everyone's ready for the winter to be over. So yeah, how did you?
I liked it.
What's up?
Go ahead. Sorry, I was saying I liked it. I like the cold.
It's colder than Israel, right?
Much more, yeah, for sure.
So tell us, how did you get into Pepperi? What made you kind of interested? I mean, obviously, it sounds like you have a little bit of a billing background, so you probably got familiar with kind of B2B billing, and what kind of made Pepperi, I guess, stand out to you?
Actually, it was by chance, nothing to do with my background. I was approached by the investors of a company that used to sit in the board of another company that I was working at. And he told me about an opportunity to work with two guys who have an idea, and they invested into it for 3 years and it didn't work out. And if I'm interested, and after like 2 to 3 months of discussions, I decided I'm taking it. And back then it was nothing to do with e-commerce. We started with something around warranties in the cloud, mainly for watches. And we ran this business for like 3 years. And after 3 years, we pivoted to what we are doing today. This was like 9 years ago.
Oh, wow. So you basically, started this in a sense because you guys had to pivot the whole business. And how did you guys decide to do B2B e-commerce? Like, what made you,
We started by tracking. Back then, it's a bit of an history. So we started by tracking warranties for watches in the cloud. And through that information, we gathered the sell-through information, because every time you're issuing a warranty for the watch, you're actually having a sell-through information. Who bought the watch, in which shop, so on and so forth. So we were gathering this information. So the next step was, and in 2012, when iPads came out, we say, why won't we provide a solution for sales reps of those companies to basically see the sell-through information in real time, no matter where it is in the world, and immediately replenish it. We decided to do it. We did it as a browser-based solution. And then those customers that were working with us, that all of them were watch manufacturers, told us, guys, this is amazing, but can you do it as an app? And we told them, sure, but this is a big thing for us because back then we didn't have any mobile technology, and actually this all mobile technology was in infant. It was all at the beginning, and we built an app for that. Back then we called it Super App, and 2-3 years after, we decided that this is our business. So we started with an app for sales rep in business to business. Very quickly after launching this app, back then we had like 12 customers. We launched the app, and in 1 month we had like 60 customers from all over the world, new ones.
Oh,
1 month. And we say, hey, this is an opportunity. Why won't we forget about this warranty and simply go for an app for sales rep? So we did it, and we did an app for sales reps, starting with just iPad, and then started to roll on. And then toward 2015, we strategized in respect to the future. Fortunately for us, we were right in our strategy. So we thought this app will be, we were ahead of the wave, of the mobile wave, but we knew that everyone will catch up with it, and it will not, it's sort of a gimmick. And if we want to survive, we really need to build something that is scalable, that work on any mobile device, but the future is B2B e-commerce, and we need to include commerce to that. And we started to develop our current solution, our current platform. This was around 2015. As a small startup, we basically, what we did, we threw to the garbage everything we did before that and built a new product called Pepperi, which is quite hard while maintaining your current customers without building new stuff for them and bringing something that theoretically is way better and way more scalable, but missing a lot of the features, but we've done it. And eventually we launched it in 2016. And the rest is history. And today, the uniqueness of our solution is the fact that really from one back office, we are providing an entire solution that works from one back office for the reps as an offline native application with all the functionality required, as well as a B2B e-commerce solution, all from one back office, which is quite unique. I would claim that no one else has it, as in an enterprise level, at least. You can find solutions like that, but typically they are geared towards the very small customers and not customers like we have.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you have, you know, a combination of the actual e-commerce platform, so if someone wants to buy on the site, and the actual like app for sales reps and people to go out and sell, and that's all connected so that if they sell something on the app, they kind of see it in the same portal. And then when you say one back office, do you guys connect to their ERP system, or do you kind of like replace their ERP system?
No, we are not replacing the ERP system of customers that are using SAP ECC 6. And we have many of those. We are not competing with an ERP. We are connecting to the ERP. Typically, they are using our own iPaaS. We have our own proprietary iPaaS. I didn't mention it, but everything we do is pure cloud. We don't have any on-premise solutions. So we have a full iPaaS, meaning integration platform as a service, as part of our solution, because all of our customers are always connecting Pepperi to a backbone solution, which is not Pepperi. And Pepperi is not the backbone ERP, and we are not claiming to be the backbone.
Yeah. So you're kind of you're a layer, yeah, similar to the other platforms that we've talked a lot about, you know, like Magento or BigCommerce. They usually integrate with the, but what's unique about you guys is, well, you have the iPass, which is pretty unique. Most of these companies, other ones don't have the iPass, and then they also have the sales rep, you know,
Yeah.
platform too, which is kind of cool. I've actually, we have a partner that specifically has a sales rep platform, but it's just for Infor. They built it for the Infor ERP. It's very specific to that.
Yeah.
And, you know, so.
We have plugins of plug and play, you know, to the more, we started at the beginning with QuickBooks and the likes, but we no longer support it. It's too small for us, but some of our partners do that. But today we have plugin that we do support for SAP. We have for plugins for NetSuite, mid-market and above.
Yeah.
So I suppose where I would go with this. So I've been a sales guy, I've been an e-commerce guy, you know, come from a lot of different angles. So if I were approaching your business and said, you know, my sales team wants to kind of become more digital, I'll just put that in quotes, you know, become far more digital and really take advantage of everything that's out there, really progress. How do you optimize the sales channels? How do you get people to sell more and better and use these tools? So just kind of give us a little sense of that for our listeners about sales channels and optimizing in each of these channels.
I think if you look on latest studies from all of the analysts, all of them, without exceptions, all of them are talking about fragmented sales channel today that I would say, and actually we did our own survey with our own customers, and we've seen it. I would say that over 80% of the market today is selling more than one channel. B2B, forget about B2C, we are not in B2C. Meaning, and the three obvious ones, before talking about marketplaces, which is a completely different subject, excluding marketplaces, which is another channel, we're talking about selling face-to-face, traditional sales. We're talking about selling telesale. And nowadays, it's not just tele, it can be video sale, but it's still the same concept. And the third one is obviously the self-service channel, which is the B2B eCommerce. Nowadays, most companies, the majority of the companies are using at least two channels, and more of them are using three channels. Now, when you see the evolution toward that, typically they build silos. And what we are seeing in the market is that typically the B2B commerce is managed by marketing. The sales is managed by sales. Telesales can be sales or operation. And by the way, operation is typically on the logistics side. In fast moving, they have their own consideration and sometimes conflict with the sales. Eventually, you see an organization that was built as silos. And like any organization, silos are not good thing in any organization, needless to say.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, in the COVID, what we are seeing, and actually it's amazing how you see it from all the analysts, the same figures. In the US, for example, they're talking about a reduction of approximately 60% in direct face-to-face sales, which brings it to 60% of what it used to be, which brings it to approximately 20% of the transactions. And B2B commerce is now reaching around 50% of the transaction. The rest, 30%, is about where you'll see in telesale. What we are seeing is there is disconnection, and I can give a lot of great example, like, and companies do not necessarily are really thinking thoroughly about what is the best thing to utilize sales rep for, what is the best thing to use telesale for, and what is the best, and it's not always true for all companies and for all customers. You need to segment your customers and then work accordingly, according to a model that you are building of what is your optimized sales. And needless to say, the more digitized you are, the cheaper it is, but it has several disadvantages as well of things that you are giving up on. So what we are doing is really working with our customers to find the optimal level for each per customer segment. It's not part of our job. We're a technology company, but we gathered a lot of experience in doing that. And then really, with our platform, it's very easy to see the entire picture from one system. And for example, in our system, think about, and I'm seeing it every day, building promotions. And for most companies, especially with the very complex promotions, when you need to come up with a new promotion and you want it to work on mobile devices in offline, and you want it to sync with your online channel, some companies simply cannot do it, as surprisingly as it might sound. And then this is where you start to see the disconnection. So we are telling them, think about it. And by the way, we have one business logic. There's no integration between the three. And the mobile device is really sucking the information for offline from the same business logic. So think about it, that these customers really have the ability to build a model of what is the optimized level to sell, number of visits that they want, number of phone calls, how they want to manage each customer segment, and then track it through reporting, through KPIs to see, okay, and sometimes while tracking it, you find out that your assumption in the model were not right. It's an ongoing trial and error process, which is an ongoing business situation for all of us. There's no solution that you can say, okay, this is the optimal level, and from now on, I'll work this way. So I think the fact that everything is combined provides huge benefits to the customers.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When you say B2B e-commerce is that big of a percentage, are you including like EDI and sort of the automated ordering and that, you know, like they've kind of like set up some sort of automated ordering?
Yeah, I excluded EDI. And you are correct. If you'll take EDI, then it will shrink the others. But again, it depends on the customer you're talking to. We are working with customers that the majority of their sales are to the large chain stores, and then the majority of their sales is EDI. However, we work with customers that are working with professional segments, that the majority of their sales are to professional segment, and to mom and pops, and then the situation is that EDI is not relevant for them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it seems like EDI seems like more of a large enterprise solution. It's not a good solution for kind of the SMB ordering, because you probably have to spend so much time integrating with all these different, you know, smaller shops. So I guess that kind of brings up the second topic we wanted to talk about. So how do you stop? Are you seeing B2B? I mean, let me kind of like word this almost a different way. Are you seeing B2B buyers like switch more often now because it's like, oh, well, you know, my face-to-face rep isn't as valuable anymore. You know, those relationships don't matter as much. So why don't I go online, find a better price, find a better, you know, opportunity, something maybe more digitized or more automated for me. Are you seeing more of that? And there's more risk of B2B companies losing customers than ever before. You know, can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Actually, Anna can share with you, again, it's not our information. She can share with you analyst information that actually touching exactly on that customers are switching vendors, which is that these vendors are our customers. Mm-hmm. So the customer of our customers is switching their vendors because their B2B e-commerce system is not adequate to what they're trying to, for their buying process, or do not exist. and then they switch vendor to a vendor that provide them with better experience in their buying process. And we are seeing it. We've seen, I must say that and I'm sure you heard it tons of times, what the Corona did is really accelerated processes that we've seen in the market. And they already started to accelerate a year or two before.
I agree.
So they were not linear even before that. We saw a great increase in shift towards B2B commerce already in 2019 in our sales. But then in 2020, it was like this.
Yeah.
And in 2020, we had customers that were giving us spiels every time that we were telling them, why aren't you using B2B commerce? Why are you, or you have a B2B commerce that really hardly working. Why aren't you switching? Why aren't you doing better thing? And they would say, no, B2B commerce is not optimized. If we'll move to B2B commerce, our competitor will beat us because they will send their salespeople and the order size is smaller on a B2B commerce. We don't want it. We prefer the human touch. And suddenly the Corona came and they were forced to do it. And suddenly they didn't have the right solution. And actually they were so pleased, our customers that were not using our B2B commerce, that suddenly they could have done it in 2 weeks. And I'm not exaggerating. Think about it. We already have their customers. We already have their business processes, all their pricing information, which is typically the hardest part with all the promotion and everything. All we need to do is just open a switch, and I'm not exaggerating. Obviously, I'm exaggerating on the look and feel because B2B commerce is an issue with look and feel. But business-wise, business processes-wise, everything is there. The look and feel is where we spend the next, month to two with those that are picky to make them work.
Yeah, I think they overthink that part.
I'm not undermining the importance of that because it's a huge difference when you're using Pepperi with your own reps and you are not so sensitive, to your brand. And it's a completely different thing as you go out to your customers and it's your face. So suddenly, and this is exactly when marketing starting to get involved. Typically, when we sell the reps is sales. When we sell the B2B commerce, it's the marketing. And marketing obviously are way more sensitive to the look and feel, and I understand them. I'm also very sensitive with what my customers are seeing.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess then how do you stop them from switching?
From switching, why?
The B2B, how does a B2B company reduce or stop their customers from switching? Is it just building a better B2B e-commerce site, or what would you?
I think some of the idea is you need to quickly make sure that your B2B e-commerce site is supporting everything your customers are asking for, and I think nowadays, and it was not like that 2 years ago. Nowadays, if you are a serious vendor that do not provide the option for B2B commerce, it's a big minus. We are seeing it all over the world. It's not. By the way, we work in like 70 countries around the world, so we have a very good global view on the situation. And it's amazing how this COVID really made the entire world the same. I'm talking to customers from all over the world. All of them are working from home, the same stories, and small world.
Well, I was going to ask a question actually related to that at some point about, I understood that you were global and you're saying you're working in about 70 countries around the world. Really, are there countries that you would say are much more advanced in B2B e-commerce at this point than others, or regions of the world that are much more advanced?
I would say it goes to industries and countries.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that generally speaking, we've seen a much faster adoption in the slow-moving items, than in the fast-moving items prior to the corona.
Mhm.
Because the logistic of fast moving is such that in any case you need to visit them quite frequently. So it's different. And I think the corona changed the attitude of the fast moving toward, it's amazing the shift in attitude, amazing. While with the slow movers, we've seen it before, happening much faster in many of the industries, although there are still industries that did not, and now they are moving much faster, like the watch industry, which is an industry which is under big problem, and big industry for us. And we've seen it that before that, they were reluctant to move to B2B commerce, although they are in the slow moving. And now they're moving as well much faster toward that. So this is on the industry side.
Mhm.
When you talk countryside, we have a great example is we just end of last year we signed a very nice deal with the largest food distributor in Indonesia. I'm not sure you know Indonesia is the fourth largest country in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, population-wise, yeah.
Yep.
And they are going to be the first one in their country in the food industry from a sizable companies that are moving to B2B. So yeah, they are way behind. And they are not behind technology-wise. They're using the latest and greatest technology, this company.
Mm-hmm.
But they were not considering to move so quickly to B2B commerce. And by the way, we were competing with the largest companies in the world because it's a huge, we're talking about 90,000 customers, okay? That's supposed to place order, if not daily, then twice a week or something like that. So suddenly you see that those countries that behind, let's put it this way, are now accelerating. On the other end, we are seeing Australia adopted it much faster than the US from what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
But US is in good shape, relatively speaking, and that's in that respect.
Yeah, I've been impressed from
It's my personal observation. I'm not basing it now on analysts. It's just
no, that's what we want to hear. That's what our listeners want.
China is actually really far ahead. I don't know if I heard that China is at like a huge percentage of all sales are e-commerce. So it seems like there might be the furthest ahead in everything e-commerce from what I've heard. Actually,
we have here and there implementation in China related to customers outside of China. We are not strong in China at all. So I don't have any good perspective on China, to be honest.
I think that's a challenge for most companies outside of China. It's hard to get.
Especially for cloud, by the way, especially for cloud. When I had opportunities, they always, I needed to establish a local cloud there with their, it's a big mess, and I simply decided not to do it. We have cloud in the US, we have cloud in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, the big companies struggle with it, so yeah. but yeah, that's definitely very interesting to see how. So can you give me some examples of like, so what you were saying about how the slow moving companies were actually a little bit ahead? Can you, like, if you're in an industry that's behind, I think this is a mistake that companies make. Let's say they're an industry that's behind, right? And they're like, oh, we need B2B e-commerce. They start looking at their competitors and start like comparing to their competitors. When I think what they should be doing is looking at an industry, like another B2B industry that's a little more ahead and saying, how do I get to there? You know what I mean? Like, because then you're comparing yourself to someone that's actually doing a good job, you know, instead of like some other competitor that's not really
seeing it all the time. We are seeing it all the time, that we implement with the leader in the industry or with someone who is very visible, and then suddenly the rest are coming. Yeah.
Yeah, but can you give me an example of maybe a company or an industry in B2B that you think people should follow or are doing maybe better than the others? Like you mentioned the slow moving, but give us a more not watches, maybe something a little more specific or a different one.
Actually, the industry that I see the biggest changes in the food and beverages.
Mhm.
That in the past they were hardly using B2B from what I've seen, and suddenly now we have big time. Many food and beverages companies are doing it with us. There are like small examples in the US, like Vintage Food, for example, in the US, Eastland Food in the US, two mid-sized companies that did a great job on really combining everything. You can go into their website, you will see that they are using us across the board, with reps, with telesale, with B2B eCommerce. We have companies like Dermalogica, if you're familiar, which is a large company.
Yep, I know them.
Which did it many years ago with us. Actually, they started not with us. They then switched to Pepperi reps, and then built like 3 websites of B2B commerce with us. So we have several examples like that. They did a great job, and they were very aggressive in really. You have companies that simply build B2B, launch it, and expect things to happen, and it doesn't work. Or they think we'll do 1 month promotion and then everything will work, and it doesn't work. So Dermalogica is a great example of the opposite. They really doing a great job in tracking, managing, ongoing, improving, tracking KPIs to see that usage on certain segments are where they should be, and and surveying all the time, satisfaction level and things like that. I actually participated in some of their steering committee around that. And monthly steering committee, and it works beautifully. When you start to track it and you're doing an ongoing job, and you involve operations, sales, marketing, and they all sit together and understand that, okay, there are different channels, but they must work together. And there is a huge impact. If you have eyes in the shop, why not use it for many other things? And maybe not use it for ordering and use it for other things, because you can do ordering much cheaper in a different way. So really managing it, and every company is different. You cannot set rules that will be right for all company, and every industry is very different as well. Every country is different, but you need to constantly work on that in a structured way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's change gears a little bit. I mean, we still have 3 of the topics we wanted to get on. So why is selling, from your guys' perspective on the B2B marketplaces, damaging the B2B brands? What are you seeing in the marketplaces that you would maybe change or advise them not to do?
I just said before that every company is different, and you cannot assume that you know everything. I don't assume. So I'm sure there are companies that are working with marketplaces, and it's great for them. And I'm not saying that this is true for all companies. There are companies that marketplaces are a great thing for them. I can give you the consideration that I've seen that you should take when you're considering it. So first of all, if you're not trying to build a brand, if you're just selling on price, and you're selling a fast-moving item, or you're very small, or you might be very big, but you are not building a brand, you're selling on price, marketplaces might be the best place for you, because it gives you great exposure, and it gives you the ability really to be on the same page with someone who is spending tons of money on his brand, which you do not need to, and it gives you the opportunity to publish your ad along with his product that might cost 10 times more. So if you are one of those, then go ahead and use marketplaces. But what we've seen is companies with great brand. Actually, I cannot expose too much, but one of my investors is one of them that started with, and I will not say which marketplace, and
That's fine.
started to,
yeah.
And he put his products also in a marketplace, and then suddenly you find yourself, you do not control how it will be presented. So suddenly you find your product alongside with some of the competitors that you don't want to be associated to, and with an ad there, that of something that is way cheaper than you, or might look very similar to you even, so much different quality, and suddenly there is pressure on your pricing in order to sell. So very quickly he started to, I will not talk about him, but very quickly you are pushed to. So what some companies are doing, they say, okay, so the previous, and in that case, actually it was fashion. So I'll sell the previous year in the marketplace, and the new year I'll sell through the regular channels. But you're damaging your brand. You're damaging your pricing eventually by doing it, because you are really exposing it big time to a huge amount of audience, that you are selling for this price. Now, on top of it, those marketplaces, especially the stronger they are, and let's take Amazon as an example. Amazon they have like, I don't recall, I think 22,000 products today of their own private label. They gather information about a product type. Okay, so they see the customer preferences. Because it's not your website, they don't share it with you, they capture it. And then they can position. And by the way, ask Nike why they are no longer publishing themselves on Amazon. Ask, forgot the food company, the German one.
I think it's interesting. I've heard the strategy of maybe put some of your commodity, like, don't put your best items on Amazon, but I think it's an interesting point that you said, like, even if you put last year's model or whatever, you still think that's a risk, because then you still have pressure, that those products are no longer valuable or not as valuable,
It's only my personal opinion. If I would build a brand, I would not put it on a marketplace. Unless, again, I'm under pressure, I cannot, this is my only way to sell.
Yeah.
But it will not be my first choice, let's put it this way.
No, I think I agree with you, but there are distinctions. I mean, I think as you said, there are specific companies and specific product lines and things I've seen very successful on B2B, and I don't worry so much for them about damaging the brand, because maybe they're more about volume, right? I mean, maybe they're more.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
For those folks, I'm all for it. And also one other thing I'd say about those marketplaces is fast learning. You do get fast learning about what your consumers think and what the marketplace is like. So some folks who don't really have that knowledge or don't have the ability to get that data, all of a sudden they realize everyone who is selling something that's similar to theirs, and then maybe they can back away and decide what their brand is really about.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I learned in business and in life, you can never say there is no such thing or this is the only way to do things. So yeah, there are always other ways.
So, I'll dive into, one of our other topics, because this is a perennial favorite topic for our show and for our listeners. Let's talk about the future. People people are always wondering what's next, and nobody expected COVID to come, and that changed a lot of things or accelerated a lot of things. How do you want to look at the next 3 to 5 years? We don't have to look 20 years out, but just the next 3 to 5 years in B2B e-commerce. What do you think are some things that you see that are happening?
It's funny. Why? Because my management right now, we have a huge office here, very big, even for pre-COVID, really a lot of space, costing us too much. And now in the COVID days, it's like, I'm not exaggerating, 90%, if not more, empty. Okay, I'm here, everything is empty. And the reason I'm bringing it up is to answer your question about the future. And then when I ask my management, okay, so why spend the money on an office? Let's take the money and give, great things to the employees while they work at home. Let's close the office. No, we need an office. We need an office. Okay. And I really need to make a decision now, because the 3 years contract expires in 1.5 months. To make the long story short, from a situation, we don't need an office, we need an office. And then when you try to understand, okay, so where do you want us to be? They want the same space. Okay, why? Because sometimes when we need to release, we need the entire team here. So we need the full office. Okay, but are you going to keep this huge office for those sometimes after COVID? And who knows when is this after COVID? Let's save the money. So we are completely confused in my management. What should we do next? So I don't know what to do in the next month, and you're asking me 3 to 5 years. And you should have heard the debate we had in management today, shouting. It's part of the Israeli nature.
I wish I were there. That sounds exciting. It really sounds great.
No, I was sitting there and listening to my VPs, and it was really amazing. How people are changing their mind in the last month. It's about a month that we are discussing it and cannot reach an agreement of what do we want, how the future would look. And it has to do with also offices. Do you know whether people will go back to their offices or not? I don't know after what I've seen today.
I don't think they will. To be honest, I think the answer is no. I mean, if I were you guys, I would cancel that lease and get a smaller space just to have something, and then you can always.
This is how we started.
Yeah.
This is how we started. Exactly like the rationale. Okay, we need to narrow. This exactly. But then when you go into the details, suddenly no, we need this. But I'm not saying I'm not going to do it. Don't get me wrong. But it's always you might be surprised, and this is again from my experience. 3 months from now, hopefully, at least the way things looks in Israel, we are well into the vaccinated, like almost 4 million people, which is like more than 40% of our population, including child and everyone, already been vaccinated. So what I'm saying is 3 months from now, I will not be surprised if people will forget everything and everything will go back to how it was before, although it doesn't look like that right now. But I know the nature of people to forget like that when things are changing. But anyway, to answer your question, when again, look on analysts if you trust them. I'm not always trusting them, but if you trust them, they are claiming, and I trust them that it's on real survey, and I've seen it again in several surveys, that around 75% of the people that they have asked in B2B were telling them that that the current working method during the corona is either more efficient or the same level of efficiency as before, meaning they don't see a reason to go backward. They will stay like this. If you trust that, it means that we'll see a reduction of like 50% in Salesforce, of actual Salesforce people selling, and moving more toward remote selling and B2B e-commerce selling. And I trust that as a direction. We've seen it before COVID. COVID accelerated it. maybe it will go backward a little bit after COVID, and because people are used to certain working method, but then it will continue. The direction was there anyway. So definitely this is the direction. We'll see everything way more digitized, way less, and stores will change dramatically, and will be either service stores or stores that are serving, things that you want to do now in immediate, and not stores where you go to buy, and because you can do it over the internet. So I don't think I have something new to tell you here. What we've seen before is just going to be accelerated.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I believe it.
Yeah. One thing to add to that, I'm just curious, I was just speaking of YouTube, we were talking about how this is, we'll go on YouTube later. And I watch, especially when I work out, because I work out at my home now mostly. We actually have an office gym, which I go to sometimes, but because it's empty, it's literally just me in the gym at the office building. But at home, I'll watch YouTube videos, just like whatever, and I get the recommendations, right? Which is actually artificial intelligence, very basic, I would say. And, sometimes it'll be like things like Elon Musk, warning about AI, and we need to be careful about artificial intelligence. What do you, I think you're going to see a lot more, machine learning, artificial intelligence in sales and marketing. And you're seeing it kind of a little bit, but what do you think about that in the next 3 to 5 years? And do you think B2B, I think B2B is behind, they're behind generally in this,
Yeah, we already looked into implementing next best offer, which is the most common things to do in AI today. And the AI engines are obviously getting better and better. Obviously, we don't have our own engine, but we utilize a third-party one. And yeah, it's definitely the direction. But from what I've seen, the customer that I've seen, and it will happen. It's just the adoption of technology. They're still struggling at this point in B2B e-commerce, from what I've seen. But I'm starting to see some successful projects. The best I've seen is in food and in beverages, actually, not in food, in beverages. I've seen a customer that implemented next best offer using AI. They already did a very sophisticated algorithm without it, implemented it, and then let the machine learning improve it. And it improved their next best offer by 2%, which is nice, when you think about a large company. So it's happening. But this customers that I'm talking about is extremely sophisticated.
Yeah.
I don't see it. And is extremely big. So it's not yet common in the mid-market. I haven't seen any mid-market successful implementation, although as a buzzword, I'm hearing it all the time. It's still at the beginning, but it will happen. I give it 3 to 5 years, and then we'll start to see.
My point is, it's, we said 3 to 5 years, and I think the reason I'm bringing it up is you have to kind of start now. Like, one of the things that I've done very well at Trellis is, when I believe something's going to happen in 3 to 5 years, like, I start planning now. You know what I mean? Like, because I think what happens is most of these companies, they wait 3 to 5 years, and then all the competitors or the best ones are doing it, and then they're just always catching up, and they'll never win. You know what I mean? They'll always be behind. So
I agree.
And I think that
you need to do things now and not wait. Definitely.
Yeah, I think that being behind in technology, like, every year, it becomes a bigger and bigger problem. You know what I mean? Like, in B2B, you could kind of get away by being like, oh, we have a good brand, or we have great service on the phone. Our sales reps will come meet you. But every year, like, that value is like less and less. So if you're behind, that being behind is a bigger deal. You know what I mean? Like, that 5%.
Totally agree.
Totally
agree. It's a wrong attitude in general. When you think what I have is good enough, this is exactly when you start to be behind.
Well, one of the things I talk to folks about, especially in B2B, but also in B2C, is really just kind of charting things out in a very regular way and saying, well, what's short term, what's medium term, or what do we have to do research on? Because, a lot of things will just come up in conversation, even in like a Zoom sort of meeting or whatever. And people say, well, I don't know anything about that, right? And so you basically get them into a process of saying, well, if you don't know anything about it, then you have to put it on that list and you have to learn about it so you can find out, 2 quarters from now or a year from now, if that's something you really need to take seriously and dive into. And so it's that process. You can't just put it over there and say, well, I don't know, and we'll see, right? It's a process.
I agree. Actually, if you are talking about the future technology-wise, I would not rule out also IoT as a huge thing that right now is very unsuccessful now, very unsuccessful from what I've seen in most cases, but I have no doubt that it will be successful. I've seen some failed project. I have no doubt. I've seen it happen. Unfortunately, my gray hair can tell you. I've seen, that it doesn't work, and suddenly it works. And when it works, it's like that.
Well, one of the things I think that's worked against IoT is that a lot of the stuff that's gotten press is like, the toaster that you can deal with from your phone. And, people think it's sort of gimmicky, as opposed to, something that really has value that can connect. And so at some point, I completely agree with you. There's going to be a lot of value. I would love to have like Instacart connected to my refrigerator and to my kitchen cabinets. Figure that out. So I'm getting the deliveries and
but you're talking B2C, it's much easier B2B. Think about it
for the shelves.
As a supplier, instead of giving just the product, and many suppliers are doing it anyway, they're giving a sort of an aisle.
Mm-hmm.
It's an IoT device that is giving them real-time information of what's going on.
Oh, sure. There are smart shelves in warehouses that I'm aware of already, right? And on shelves in stores.
They're still expensive, like always with new technologies, but then the more they are successful, the price will come down, and it's just a matter of time.
I agree with you on IoT. I completely do. I think that's a whole other topic we should put into our podcast. It's
a whole podcast on. So we have one last topic we didn't get to briefly, but we think it impacts IoT is the impact of 5G. That's starting to come out. Cell phone, better service, so better mobile connectivity. People can order wherever they are on their phone. Do you think that'll impact both the B2B sales and the IoT, market? How do you see that changing things?
Yeah, 5G, the majority of the world nowadays, Western world is already with 5G. The problem now is the devices and the applications. This is where the majority of the problem right now. The devices are not yet there, and definitely not the applications. Where I see the impact is, think about those, you were talking about machine learning. In B2B, you have all this shelf analysis, image recognition. That in the past, nowadays, one of the biggest problem is that they are dependent on the server and the connection between the two is too slow. With 5G, this can open it completely. This all image recognition. Processes that consume tons of data transfer that from what I'm reading should work now. Once it will be implemented and the application will support it, it will open new ways of doing image recognitions on the spot online and not offline with the limitation of the device versus and all those optimization. Big problem in image recognition was this limitation of the bandwidth. It's exactly what we were discussing before. Sometimes you have new technology, and this new technology as a one piece cannot really make an impact. But when you combine it all together with the 5G, with the new things in IoT, with the new thing, when it all comes together suddenly with the new devices that support it and the new network, and suddenly you have it, and suddenly it works. So I think we all think the same, that we are talking about things that there's no way to stop them because the economical model is so obvious. So it will happen. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I agree. Well, this was great. You know, I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time, but that, you know, I think I've learned a lot just from you.
I have as well.
Pleasure, and I'm always learning by your question as well. So
this has been really great.
I have one last question, just because, you know, I want to give you guys a good opportunity. I think a lot of people don't know Pepperi. I think even I hadn't heard of it until pretty recently in the United States. Because obviously you have the big guys, like you have like, you know, Adobe, Magento, Salesforce, like the bigger e-commerce platforms that, you know, these are these like multi-billion-dollar companies now supporting them. Episerver just got bought by Insight, so now they're kind of like, or Insight got bought by Episerver, so now they're like a bigger company. So you guys are still, I think, more of like a startup, but it sounds like you guys can do everything, but you also, if someone wants to just use the sales reps, they can start that way. Like how can you start in like, or if I just want to use e-commerce, like how do people start with everything, or do they potentially just choose like one thing that they need from you and start that way?
You can start with B2B eCommerce, you can start with reps, and you can start with both. In the past, I think the concept of doing it all from one system was not there. You couldn't find RFPs like that at all. In the last 2 years, we do see RFPs like that. Actually, I can tell you with several of the RFPs that we ran, for example, the largest distributor of food in Puerto Rico, Visuares, they came up with an RFP just for B2B e-commerce. All those names that you mentioned were there, that you know, and we were there. And I'll answer also your other question that was there. How come you don't know about us? I'll answer about it shortly. So as part of the process, we show them what we have, okay? And then they say, you know what? We should not buy B2B e-commerce without thinking about our reps and without thinking how it will work with our reps, and they changed completely the RFP. I think the more we move into the future, we'll see more and more companies that do not buy it separately. It's just a matter of time, of educating the market. We've seen the opposite. We've seen Angostura, if you know, the room company. Angostura came to us that they just want reps. And they suddenly, and when they saw our solution, they say, you know, we are about to close the deal. We already have to sign it on a B2B e-commerce, but now we are stopping it and we are going to buy yours. So
wow. Well, the reason I'm asking is what if someone already has, you know, they're already doing well with B2B e-commerce, or they maybe not, you know, they at least have a solution. They don't want to change because that can be a big project, you know, like they just changed, or, you know, they don't want to change for 2 or 3 years because they've already invested tons of money into a platform. They could take your platform and at least do the sales reps and then connect it to the e-commerce, or maybe connect it to the ERP, or they could kind of find a way to connect it all so it's still somewhat connected, right? Like they could.
We have many customers that are using us only for the reps. Great example is Kimberly-Clark. Typically the huge companies, when you talk about the giants, they will not go with one system for both. And it's a matter of the level of investment that they made into each already.
Yeah,
so
that's kind of the point. For them, that's like a $10 million project, to like replace the e-commerce.
And actually, a lot of them are telling us, no, you will not be able to do all the things that we have in our SAP and all the things
And then
that we
you can't.
And we tell them we can do it. They say, no, we are not going to get there. Anyway, yeah, you can do this and you can do that. You can do both. I think the biggest advantage is to do both.
Yeah, it makes
of using Pepperi, specifically for Pepperi. The biggest advantage is to do both because it's quite unique that you're getting a real product as opposed to project out of the box. With all the business processes, CRM, everything works from one back office, from one business logic. It's a huge advantage. And to answer your question, we do not have any institutional investors. We are self-sustained. We are not one of those companies who, burning millions of dollars. My marketing size is close to zero. It's Yana and another person. And our growth is all mainly words to mouth. We have no SDRs. We are not doing any outbound. Everything is inbound. Everything is from customers who are telling another customer. And we are profitable. So it's good enough for us.
That sounds pretty good. It all sounds pretty good to me.
That's awesome. I love to hear that. I agree. There's a lot of these companies burning money. So sometimes I'm always skeptical because I'm like, we choose the solution. If it's a startup, like, are they going to exist in 5 years? And then we have to switch,
It's not just whether they'll exist. It's also the atmosphere in the company and what type of values you have internally. I think Pepperi is really like a family. If you look into the amount of years that the employees are here, it's completely out the chart from iTech in Israel and now also in the US for the last 4 years since we established the US operation. We have people 10, 11 years in the company since we started. And
wow.
That's impressive. That's great.
Not one or two. And not one of the VPs. I'm talking about people that are here for long term and they feel it's like a family.
That's awesome.
You cannot do it with aggressive investors, with changes all the time.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, great. This was awesome. We'll have to have you back maybe when in 6 months or a year, you'll probably see a lot more new trends and we'll see a lot of new information, hopefully after COVID, or COVID will be better, at least, we'll see.
Yeah, it will be interesting to talk like 6 months after the COVID,
yeah,
whether those predictions that people will change forever to this way and will not go backward is right or not. It will be interesting. I'm not so sure, but we'll see.
Have to do a conference on that, actually. I think that's a great topic. Really.
I seriously think so. I'm always, when I hear those people who are so confident about how things are changed forever, I'm not sure. The memory of people is very short.
Well, thank you once again. We really appreciate your time, and I think our listeners are going to be very happy with everything that we had to discuss today. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. It was a pleasure for me as well. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.